Welcome to Confused Reviews, where cartoon drawing reviews movies. And what scared you as a kid? Spiders, clowns, or Sarah Jessica Parker? Well, I, embarrassingly enough, was afraid of E.T. That's right, the cute, lovable alien terrified me. I was exposed to him at only 4 years old by my dad, and it scared me shitless. I would have the same recurring nightmare of him standing in my doorway, creepily smiling at me. Thankfully, like most childhood fears, I got over it, and E.T. is now one of my favorite movies. But something that never really scared me, but more creeped me out, were dolls. Having a sister, I've seen a lot of them in all shapes and sizes. And they always unnerved me. Those emotionless eyes, those creepy dresses. Ugh. But I digress. And I assume a lot of people share this fear because killer doll movies are very popular and are no new concept. Since the 1920s, in fact, from films like The Great Gabbo and Dead of Night, as well as shows like The Twilight Zone and episodes like Living Doll, which to this day remains one of my favorite episodes of that series. And in 1989, the killer doll concept was revitalized and created one of the biggest of the horror icons. Child's Play. It tells the story of Andy, a 6-year-old boy who receives a good guy doll for his birthday that has one or two kinks. Well, if you consider murdering a ton of people a kink. Anyways, the film spawned 5 sequels and a shit ton of Chucky merchandise, real dolls, t-shirts, and even shoes. But is it something special or just the same generic doll movie? Let's find out. This is Child's Play. So the film begins with Mike Norris, played by Chris Sarandon, chasing Charles Lee Ray, played by Brad Dourif. He then gets shot, and the cop drives right past him. What? He breaks into a toy store and is shot again. He then grabs one of the good guy dolls and does a voodoo spell on the doll. You know, the thing all criminals know. It's in the contract. The store then fucking explodes. What the hell? Were all those toys covered in gasoline? He dies, and we cut over to Andy, played by Alex Vincent, who is making breakfast, and it could have gone better. He then watches the scariest commercial since that PlayStation 3 commercial. Later that day, Andy's mom, Karen, played by Catherine Hicks, gets a good guy doll from some bum on the street, which I can only assume smells like rotten eggs and old booze. She gets home and gives Andy the good guy, and he announces his name to be Chucky. I always saw him as more of a Tommy. Well, there is that in the sequel. But whatever. Since Karen's boss is a heartless prick, she's forced to work on her son's birthday, so Maggie, played by Dina Manoff, has to watch him. We see on the TV that Charles Lee Ray died, Andy is reprimanded and sent to bed. Maggie's cleaning up when Chucky, someone, hits her in the face with a hammer and she falls out the window. Okay, 1, you had a solid 3 seconds before he hit you. 2, Chucky must have the arm strength of fucking Dwayne Johnson if he managed to hit her with a plastic hammer and have her fall out a window. And 3, how the fuck did you get overpowered by a 2-foot-tall doll with a plastic hammer? What the fuck? Fun fact, the original idea for her death was her to be electrocuted in a bathtub, which they would later use in this piece of shit. Karen comes home and is informed by Deputy Dipshit from earlier that she fell out of the window. He tells her there were footprints on the counter, and we soon find out they're from Chucky's shoes. Definitely didn't see that coming. The next day, Andy leaves school and takes a train downtown. They then make it to a seemingly abandoned house, and Chucky turns on the gas. Some jackass shoots inside the house, and it, well, doesn't go too well. Andy is questioned again by the cops, and Gary Busey says Andy should be brought in for some tests. Makes sense, actually. Karen heads home and the batteries fall out of the box. Oh shit. She opens the back to find no batteries and he turns his head around. Fucking Exorcist doll. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the best scene in the movie. She threatens to throw him in the fire and he finally speaks. You stupid bitch, you filthy slut! Did you fuck with me? He even bites her arm and escapes. Badass. I think this is the best scene in the movie because it's very suspenseful, especially when the batteries fall out. It's one of those, oh shit, we're fucked moments. I also like how we finally see Chucky in action. Plus, seeing a doll yelling out profanities is pretty damn funny. She goes back to the homeless dickweed from earlier and is almost raped until Deputy Dipshit saves her and finds out where the doll is from. Either way, it's kind of your fault for buying a doll from a homeless man in an alley. Just saying. He drives her home and is then attacked by Chucky. He then burns him with a cigarette lighter and crashes the car. Holy shit, that got weird. Oh, and Chucky is shot. Cool. Chucky then escapes again, and the next day he chats with John Bishop, played by Ray Oliver. He tells Chucky that the longer he stays in the doll, the more human he becomes, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I know it's voodoo magic or whatever, but does he suddenly grow bones and blood? Because most dolls are made of plastic and stuffing. Does the plastic turn into skin? These are questions that need answering. Another fun fact, for scenes like this where Chucky is shown in full talking, he's being played by John Franklin. That's right, Isaac from Children of the Corn is playing Chucky. I demand a Chucky Children of the Corn crossover movie ASAP. Chucky also has a voodoo doll on Dr. Death here, which raises another 1,000 questions, but anyway, the gist of it is that Chucky has to transfer his soul into Andy's body because he's the first person he revealed his true self to. He also says,
I have a date with a 6-year-old boy.
That makes me very uncomfortable. Chucky heads to where Andy is being held and not Gary Busey is stabbed and given some serious shock therapy. Andy makes it home with Chucky not too far behind. He then pulls a Laurie Strode and Chucky hops down the chimney. After an extremely short game of cat and mouse, Andy is knocked out by the bat to the head. Chucky then begins the soul-transferring chant, but thankfully Prince Humperdinck and Gillian aren't too far behind. Deputy Dipshit begins to get the shit kicked out of him when Karen shoots the little shit and is then attacked herself. He's then locked in the fireplace and Andy sets Chucky on fire.
This is the end, friend.
Motherfucker. Sorry, I feel like a motherfucker was needed there. Chucky is charred to a cinder, but doesn't stay dead for too long. He then gets his head, arm, and leg shot off and still keeps trucking. Deputy Dipshit's partner arrived and still doesn't believe it's Chucky who's killing people. He soon gets his comeuppance because Chucky busts through and grabs his throat. Serves you right, asshole. He then is shot in the heart and is finally dead. Until the sequel, where they pretty much have to do the same thing again. So in the end, all 4 of them survived, leaving them as the only witnesses to a mass murdering children's doll. And that was Child's Play, and it's one hell of a ride. For one, I think Catherine Hicks and Alex Vincent are fantastic. Hicks plays a caring but scared mother, and Vincent plays a great kid who's wrapped up in a shitty situation. Most of the effects are good, except for when Chucky's walking and it's obviously a person in a suit. The concept of a killer doll is nothing new, but is done very effectively here. And let's talk about Brad Dourif. He's so good in this as Chucky, he gets his own little section of praise. He's been Chucky in every movie so far, and like Robert Englund or Doug Bradley, he is Chucky. And unlike those characters, he hasn't been remade with a new actor yet. Thankfully. I hope they never do a movie without him because he owns this character. But one thing I don't like about this movie that I wouldn't say is a negative, but something I wish they would have done. I wish they would have kept it ambiguous for most of the movie whether it was Andy killing people or actually was Chucky. If they would have done that, it would have kept you guessing and made you question Andy's sanity, but they kinda ruined it because the opening scene is Charles Lee Ray transferring his soul into the doll. Other than a few pacing issues and some of the effects looking kind of shitty, overall I think this is a film that exploded killer dolls back into the mainstream, and it does it very well. It relies on suspense and is pretty damn scary. I'm going to give Child's Play an A- because it did its job. It terrified me as a kid. But every time I'd see him in a Halloween store as a kid, I'd go up and poke him, but whatever. Wait a second. A story where a kid named Andy has a toy that comes to life. Holy shit! Toy Story copied Child's Play? Probably just a giant coincidence, or is it? What the hell? Who's there? What is this? Oh my god. Wait a second. This isn't Chucky. Stupid doll. Anyways, I'm Confused Reviews. Thanks for watching.